Welcome to Adventures in Surgical Weight Loss with Dr. R. I'm Dr. Richard Rasmussen. I'm a bariatric surgeon and excited to bring you another story from a surgical weight loss patient. My goal is to give patients a place where they can share their amazing stories. I get to hear these stories all the time. I hope through this process to get rid of some of the bad information that exists about surgical weight loss. This week I got to visit with Traci Wright. Fun hearing her story. I really love her scientific approach to making the decision for weight loss surgery, how she just dove into the numbers and the statistics. But I think you'll really enjoy hearing Traci's story. Today I have the opportunity to sit down with Traci Wright. Traci, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, Traci, why don't you tell us your story?
Okay. Well, I am one of Dr. Rasmussen's patients. He's fantastic, by the way. But I have actually been obese, or I was obese most of my life. So I was just kind of one of those overweight kids. And I started getting really overweight in third grade. And it was about seventh grade where I kind of became more aware that I was overweight. And so I talked to my mom and I tried everything from Jenny Craig, back in the day and things like that. And by the way, I should add, my parents were very supportive and they never made me feel bad about that at all. That was my decision and, something I recognized about myself. When I was about to enter high school, I think I got scared about going to high school. Maybe I don't know, heard stories about bullying and things like that. And so I actually did something that's not healthy. I actually spent the whole summer just concentrating, just my very best, 3 to 4 months to just lose weight. And I lost weight very rapidly. I think I lost about 60 pounds over the whole summer before I entered high school. And then I stayed very active during high school. I played softball and did marching band and I jogged every day and, I did a lot of exercise. But the weight kind of slowly crept back up the next 10 years, till I was about 25 years old. I got up to about 200 pounds. And then I just kind of kept steadily gaining weight after that. And I reached my highest point of 300 pounds when I was around 35 years old. And so I had weight loss surgery at the age of 40. I'm currently almost 45 years old. So if you're including the past 5 years after weight loss surgery, I've spent about 15 of my years of my life not overweight, and about 30 years of my life overweight or obese. So.
Wow. So you have good perspective of both sides.
Yes, I have good experience on both sides.
Now, for those that are listening, tell them what procedure you had.
Oh, right. I had the gastric bypass surgery, or the Roux-en-Y, which they call, correct me if I'm wrong, the golden standard, right? Of all the weight loss surgeries.
It is the operation that's been around the longest, and so it's the one that most things get measured against, and so that's why we tend to call it the gold standard. That's correct. And do you remember at the time you were making that decision, what led you to decide on gastric bypass?
Honestly, it was the numbers. It was doing some stats. My husband and I were both obese and we had tried so many things. We had done Weight Watchers for several years, anything from motivational books, books about psychology and weight loss, personal trainers, nutritionists. I mean, we were doing triathlons together when he was in his 300s and I was in my 200s. I mean, we were exercising a lot. So we really were trying hard to lose weight. Yeah. And I think a lot of obese people do try really hard all the time.
Absolutely.
They really do. It was just one of those things where I was getting to the point where I was waking up in the morning and I'd set these goals and I'd tell myself I could do it. And then every single night I would not do it. And I would feel like a failure, even though we shouldn't feel that way, and it was getting expensive and emotionally depleting and just all the struggling and trying our best each day. So I actually read this article in the Huffington Post that I thought was really interesting. And it quoted actually some medical some stats from like peer-reviewed articles from medical journals. So it wasn't just in the article itself, but it said something interesting. It said people who are obese, who have a significant amount of weight to lose. So I'm thinking, 80 to 100 pounds or more. It said we have about a 0.067% chance of losing all of that weight and sustainably keeping it off for the rest of our lives. And that was, that was kind of, shocking to me. And so my husband and I, we actually started digging around in the medical research. So we started reading, through peer-reviewed articles and, medical journals, and, we really couldn't find, tell me if I'm wrong, Dr. Rasmussen, but we really couldn't find anything that showed that an obese person could lose a significant amount of weight and keep it off sustainably, at least for 5 or 10 years or more. Yeah, and, go ahead.
That's fascinating. There's several different studies out there and different statistics. The one I have typically quoted in the past is 20% of patients who lose a significant amount of weight will be able to keep it off. 80% will regain that. I've seen that 15%, 10%. 0.067, is that what you said?
Right, less than 1%.
Wow. That's and so I would say that there are individuals, and I know lots of them, that use different methods and have been able to conquer it with one thing or another, but the vast majority are the situation you're explaining. They've tried everything under the sun, and they're committed to it. It's, they've worked really, really hard and just haven't been successful. And the reality is you're fighting biology, right? Once we attain higher weights, our body wants to maintain that. And so as we do things to try to get rid of it, the body drops your basal metabolic rate, increases your hunger signals. And so you're just fighting that biology all the time. So it is very difficult, which is why surgery exists and why surgery helps a lot of people, and people end up coming and doing surgeries because of how difficult that is to do without.
That's how I feel. Your body creates these new set points, and then your body's always going to fight you to get back to that new set point. I'm watching, they work so hard. So this is not a put down, but like The Biggest Loser, you watch all these people and you're rooting for them and they lose all this weight, but then you find out later they gain it back because it's just so hard to sustain that. And so when I attended, I think it was the orientation, there's like a lecture you invite people to learn more about the surgery. I actually got really hopeful at the numbers that you guys were showing me. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but 85% chance after the surgery of keeping off at least 50% of the overall weight loss sustainably for the rest of our lives. Now that to me was a lot bigger number than the less than 1%.
So absolutely.
Yeah. And I kind of oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, and you're right. Again, it depends on which study you look at, but there is a high percentage of patients who will be able to keep off at least that 50% of their excess weight lost long term. So, yes, it is something that is sustainable for most people.
Yeah, and I know everyone's different and everyone experiences the surgery differently. Like my husband and I had surgery around the same time, and it's been really fascinating to watch how it's been a little bit different for him than for me. As for me, I still consider him very successful. He's gained back a little bit more weight than me, but still, if you put this in perspective, like I was 300 pounds, right? And if I hadn't had the surgery, I probably would have kept gaining weight, to be honest, because that's just the trajectory I was on. And the past 6 years, the past 6 years have been very stressful. I know we all have stressful lives, but the past 6 years, trust me, it's just been a lot of stress, and I'm a stress eater. So I imagine where I would be without the surgery, I'd probably be up to 350 or 400 pounds at this point. Yeah. And same thing for my husband, he'd be at a much higher point as well. So we discussed it together that, even if, I wasn't expecting to get into a bikini body. I was doing this for health. If I could just get below my 200s and just stay in my 100s and just be healthier with my blood pressure and, diabetes. I never had diabetes, but it runs in my family and I was scared of getting it. So even that's fantastic, right? Just, you know, and so you set these goals and you think, no, that's great. Actually, that is a success. So I think my surgery weight was 278 when I went into surgery. I currently weigh 285. So my lowest point,
you mean 185?
Oh, yes. Sorry. We were talking about the twos. Yes. I'm in my ones. I made it. But I did get down to 155, but they did explain to me at year 3, you kind of gain maybe 20, 30, and then you even out. And that's been exactly me. So I've been at 185 almost 2 years now, and I feel like I'm handling it great. Like if I stay at this point the rest of my life, I'm so happy about that. I consider that very successful. So I think that would mean I've lost 75% of the overall weight, or kept off 75% of the weight I've lost over surgery, if I'm making sense. So
yes, absolutely. And that's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Well, you did it. So thank you.
No. And I always say this, my part's the easy part. You have the hard work, and it's, you know, it is a tool, but it is only a tool. And that reminds me of another thought. You know, why is surgery more successful than not doing surgery? And one of the reasons is if you take 2 individuals who weigh the same amount, but one of them lost a bunch of weight to get to that point, they will need to consume fewer calories to maintain that weight than the person who never had to lose the weight. And so that's one area where a surgical stomach is very beneficial, because it's easier to consume that smaller portion at smaller amount and be satisfied and not be hungry than it is for the individual with a full-size stomach.
That is so true. I've been amazed. I mean, yes, it is a tool, but I just feel so different than where I was before. I mean, before I was always hungry all the time. And I just feel like I'm not hungry most of the time. I mean, there are moments where I think I'm hungry, or moments I do get legitimately hungry. But like for the most part, I mean, it's like you said, I can eat a little bit of food and I'm satisfied and I move on with my day. Whereas before, food was like a total obsession. For instance, if I started thinking about a donut in the morning and I didn't get to eat that donut, I would think about that donut all day. And then eventually I would just cave in by the donut, you know, and probably eat more than one. But it's not like that anymore. In fact, it was really interesting. I think it was about a month or 2 after the surgery. I was sitting in my living room and I stopped and I thought to myself, what am I experiencing right now? Like, what am I feeling? And I realized it was a little bit of boredom, because I wasn't thinking about food all the time. It's like my brain had been freed to think about other things, and my brain didn't know what to do with itself because it was so used to thinking about food all the time. And so it's just been so amazing to me how I don't think about food anymore. Like, you know, if I get hungry, I'll eat, but then I move on and it's done, and it's just food. It's just to help me get energy. I went into my boss's office the other day and it was his birthday and they had donuts, and I'm not going to lie, I eat sugar now and then, but I was trying to prove to myself that day, I was trying not to eat sugar that day. And they asked me if I wanted a donut, and I just simply said no. And I was surprised like how easy it was. I just said no. And then I didn't think about the donut the rest of the day. So I have these little moments that remind me how different I am now. So
that's great. I love that. And that's, you know, that long-term success comes because of those changes you've made, and you recognizing that, hey, I'm a different person. I don't treat food the same way as I did before. That's great.
Yeah. And food's actually more enjoyable to me now. I don't know if you've heard other patients say this, but you know, because we don't get to eat very much, and just because I think I was afraid of food before, because I knew if I started eating it, then I would eat a lot and then I feel sad, you know, it's like all these emotions. But now, like, oh, let's buy some fancy cheese, and ooh, let's get that salmon from Costco, and like take bites and actually like, you know, savor the flavor, and just like now I'm getting more interested in tasting, you know, different kinds of foods that I've never tasted before. So I think food should be an enjoyable thing. We should get joy from it in the right way. And I feel like that's what I'm experiencing.
That's awesome. And you probably found that you make choices, right? It's like you did the other day, donut, it's not worth the calories, what it's going to do to me for that taste but I'd rather have this, and I know this will help me be healthy, and I'm looking forward to that taste, and I can enjoy that.
Yeah, this surgery has helped me to become a food snob a little bit. Like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I still every once in a while think like, oh, like Hostess Twinkie, that looks pretty good. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, no, like why waste my calories on that? Like if you're going to splurge, make it really tasty. Like go to a French bakery or something if you have the money. I don't know.
No, great points. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Was there ever a point that you felt like, oh my goodness, what did I do?
Oh, like from the surgery, like after the surgery?
Yes.
I mean, I was scared the day of. I was so scared. It was one of the scariest things I've ever done. I'm one of those people that passes out when I give blood because I'm just so scared of needles. I'm kind of a baby that way. Just the idea of altering the inside of my body seemed scary. But then after it was done, I actually remember waking up in the hospital and, I was surprised at how fine I felt. And I remember my mom, who's had several surgeries on her back and her neck. She said, Traci, the most important thing is just to walk, to get up and walk if you can. So I walked. I think the nurses told me I walked like a total like 2 miles just around the hospital. And I kept thinking, how am I doing this? Like I just had surgery. So I don't know to answer your question, I don't know if there was ever a time I regretted it. Was that the word you used? Or
just what did I do kind of?
Oh, what did I do? There might, I have a fuzzy memory. There might have been a few times because, the first week or two you're uncomfortable and you're taking the pain medicine. There was probably once or twice laying down on the mattress when it was painful and I'm thinking, oh, what's happening? But I don't know. I don't remember if I had those thoughts. Maybe it was just all the blur. I was just getting through it. But
and if you did, obviously it's been surpassed by the other positive thoughts. So that's great.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. I mean, there were times where, I just tried to be so strict, you could only you take a sip every minute. There was like a time I was thinking like, am I going to have to keep doing this forever? Like a sip every minute, just little questions. But now I just drink water. It's fine. I think you just do that after surgery, get yourself in routine. And that's a good thing.
Routine, and with a fresh pouch, we don't want to over distend it, letting things heal. And so that's why we have such a regimented diet for that first little while afterwards, is just allowing things to heal and to make it safe and keep you hydrated and all of that. So
Gotcha. No, it worked great. And I was actually really lucky at the time. I work full time now, but at the time I wasn't working. And so I was able to just kind of sit home and concentrate on all the protocols and things. It was really good for me. So
that's great. You mentioned noticing the differences in yourself. I would call that a non-scale victory. What other non-scale victories have you noticed?
Oh, there's so many. The first one is just walking. I enjoy walking now. I didn't enjoy walking before. It just was hard on my knees and my feet and just made me tired. And now I can just walk forever. I mean, we went to Disneyland last month and we stayed for 3 days and I just walked. I mean, how many miles do you walk at Disneyland? I don't know, but I was also going, but I was actually running back and forth too to help my husband who's kind of disabled. So he was in an electric wheelchair and I was running back to the hotel to get this. I mean, I was just going nonstop and I was fine. Didn't even break a sweat. It was like 72 degrees. I'm thinking, wow, I could have never done this before. So just walking for fun is nice. Listening to my AirPods, not feeling like it's a chore to go on a walk. Just having more energy, of course, to take care of my husband and my daughter. Just working full time. I don't think I would have been able to do this. In fact, one of the reasons I chose to have weight loss surgery, I guess long story short, my husband got chronically ill and had to go on long-term disability. And I'm thinking, well, I need to get a full-time job. But how can I get a full-time job when I can barely make it up the stairs? And so I that was one of the important reasons why I chose to have weight loss surgery. And it's just been this beautiful thing. I have this job that I love now. And I'm at a standing desk right now. I don't know if you can see it.
I noticed that, yes.
Yeah, I love it. I stand most of the day. It's amazing that my body can do that now. Clothing. Clothing is a big one. I'm a bit superficial, but I love clothes. I love shopping clothes. And one of the things that just bothered me so much being obese was, you spend hours looking for clothes. A lot of the shops don't carry your size. And if you do find something your size, it's like $40 for a t-shirt. I didn't have money for that. And so now I can just go into Ross or the thrift store or TJ Maxx. I mean, I'm not a big spender. I think I got this at Ross for $10, but I fit in those clothes now. It's amazing. I can just buy cheap clothes off the rack. So that's been a miracle. Lowered blood pressure. I think that was really affecting my mood before. Of course, I'm not so worried anymore about diabetes, but I think that's still important that I watch my diet and exercise for that, of course. Seats. I used to be really scared to go on an airplane or go into the theater, or when someone offered me one of those cheap plastic chairs to sit on, I was afraid I was going to break it. There's just so many things you don't realize that, excuse the pun, consume an obese person's brain all day, little things we worry about all day. So anyway, I've saved so much money on clothes, on food, on medications, overall just confidence and energy. I always wanted to surf. And last summer I went to the beach and I fit the wetsuit. I'm in a wetsuit for the first time. And then I stood up. My brother, he just kind of pushed me on the big board in the white water, but just, experiencing things like that. I've been just really enjoying doing things I couldn't do before, just for fun. I went rock climbing just to see if I could do it. And I did it. So it was great.
That is awesome. I love it. I love hearing those things, things you've been able to accomplish that you just couldn't in the previous life. That's great.
Yeah, I've been very blessed. And, I'm not saying that to say, when I was obese, my husband's a good example to me because he grew up overweight. But he didn't let it stop him. He did everything he could do to enjoy life. I think it was in the 80s or 90s so he grew up by the beach in Long Beach, California. And that's when shortboard surfing was really popular, but he was too heavy for a shortboard. So he said, well, that's not going to stop me. So he went and bought a longboard and he became a longboard surfer and he just really enjoyed it. So of course, do everything you can to enjoy life. Don't let things stop you, find what you can do. So.
Yeah, great advice. Great advice. Are there any tips or tricks that kind of keep you motivated, keep you on track, keep you engaged in your new lifestyle?
I think the first one is I used to always be so hard on myself, kind of blaming myself, where's my willpower? Why can't I do this? And so I just try to remind myself that, after doing all the reading that I did and learning what I know now about obesity, we just try our best. So number one, we just love ourselves and we're just trying our best. So just be easy on yourself. And what was the question? I'm forgetting already. I got lost in thinking about
just tips or tricks to kind of stay on track or stay engaged or, continue your new lifestyle?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Great question. So I would say trying to find as much enjoyment as you can in food and in exercise. So I mentioned those fancy cheeses. If there's something new you want to try or go on a food tour, I guess. Those are kind of expensive, but they have one in Park City you could go on. I've always wanted to do. Of course we can't eat that much, so maybe that's not a good idea, but or just try new restaurants, and Mark and I, my husband, we share a plate and then that's one thing you have to accept too. After surgery, you might want to go to buy something, but you have to realize you're going to pay the same price. So unless you're good with eating leftovers for 3 days, you just that's just one thing you have to accept. But at the same time, it's nice to go out and treat yourself if you can. And then find joy in exercise. I mean, don't get too hard on yourself with this, I would say. I'm not a huge exerciser, but I'm trying to do a little bit more. I work at Brigham Young University and I get free access to the pool, and I do enjoy swimming. So I rented a locker for the year. So if I have time on my lunch break, I just walk down there, and even if it's just a 15, 20-minute swim, it's lovely, and I get a swim in. And then I just try to do walk breaks, and they have lots of hills here on campus that kind of get your heart going a little bit. And then I have been telling myself lately, though, I really do need to do weights, for osteoporosis and things like that. So guess what I did, Dr. Rasmussen? I called Utah Valley, and they, have the Live Well Center there on the 4th floor, and it's fantastic. So 2 times a week, you get group personal training, but there's only like 3 or 4 of you. So you kind of feel like you're getting your own personal trainer, and it's about $80 a month. But you get to use their gym and their locker room. So I'm going to start doing that on Tuesday, Thursday mornings.
That's awesome. All of those great tips. Exercise is an important component because the more lean muscle mass we have, it helps blunt our insulin response. And so it gives us a little more leeway with the food. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a gym rat. I mean, I love that you go down on a lunch break and do a swim or go walk the hills. Just taking those 15, 20 minutes, do them a couple times during the day, whatever, that's great. And you bring up another important point that, weight training or resistance training, helping to build that muscle and bone, helps, it's going to help you be healthier, longer in your life. Less prone to falls, fractures, those kinds of things. So all very, very important points.
Yeah, I used to have black and white thinking, like if I can't get an hour of exercise, then I'm not going to do it, but now I find my life is so incredibly busy. Like if I don't take advantage of that 10 minutes, it's not going to happen. So I've kind of learned to let go of that mentality. And if you can just walk 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the afternoon, that's better than nothing, and like I said, just enjoy it. Take your AirPods, listen to an audiobook. But I would say, when I got to the point where I really started believing like food, I think for the majority controls our weight. I would like to get your perspective on that. I read something like 85% of what we eat is kind of, is our diet, controls our weight.
That's the usual number I quote. 85, weight loss, weight maintenance is 85% what we eat and 15% what we do. Yeah.
And then exercise fights disease. So if you're overweight, you're obese, I would say, okay, you might not have the bikini body that you want, but you can fight disease. I don't know if this is an accurate stat, but I've heard just walking 20 minutes a day reduces diabetes and high blood pressure by like 50%. And so I would say, you might not be able to get to the weight you want to get to, but you can help fight disease and you can feel better. So I would encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, definitely physical activity is very important. Another kind of little hack is walking after eating. So don't eat and just sit down, but eat and then get out and move, and that'll help blunt that insulin response as well.
Yeah. Can I just say, though, I don't want to give everyone the wrong perspective of like, I'm Miss Perfect and I've done everything so right. Like, you would be so sad, Dr. Rasmussen, if you learned about all the mistakes I've made and some of the things I've eaten. And so, like, I have definitely not been perfect at all. But the beauty of the surgery is it just overall just allows me to eat less all the time. I mean, that's the beauty of it. I have this little stomach. I eat a little bit and I feel good and I move on with my day, and it just allows me to keep my weight down. And, so I feel like the surgery does most of the work, to be honest, but I need to do my part too. But yeah, it's just a great thing. But yeah, don't think you have to be perfect. That's the thing. Get out of that black and white thinking. Trust me, come talk to me sometime. Like, you'll be like, really? But no, it's great. Like, you'll be fine. So.
Great points. None of us are perfect, and there's always obesity is a chronic disease, and it's something you have for your life. even though your weight's lower. And so it's, you're making those choices. I mean, you're exercising, you're making good choices with what you eat. Your volumes are smaller. I mean, you're doing those things that are helping you be successful. And yeah, none of it's perfect. And quite honestly, if you're 80-90% of the time kind of eating, your proteins and your veggies and doing the stuff, the rest of that time's usually not going to have a significant impact.
Yeah, I like that theory, most of the time, right? If we can just try our best to do it most of the time. Yeah.
So if you were faced with it, would you do it again?
Oh, 100%. And, a part of me is like, well, Traci, just don't start telling everyone to do it, even though I want to, because I'm like, no, you don't understand. This has been a miracle. You have to do this. But I know that, it's different for everyone. And so I would just say, look into it yourself. You have to feel good about it. You have to make the decision. You have to do the research. But I mean, some people say, oh, well, it's risky. And I think, is it though? I mean, the risks are so low. It's just as low as any other surgery, right? And then you think about the risk you're going to have in your life if you stay obese. I would rather take the risk of surgery than all those other risks that would be in my future. So yeah, I would recommend it to anyone that needs it. In fact, I wish everyone that wants it could have it. I feel very blessed and very lucky that I was able to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything else we should know about you or your story?
Ooh, let me think. Okay, I made some notes here because I'm not the best public speaker. So let me let me go through them and see if we covered everything. As I told you about my history, and it's good that you can edit this if you need to, right? So I'm starting to loosen up a little bit. It's okay. He can edit it. You don't want to edit it though too much. Let's see. I told you kind of about how I did the research, the numbers. Yeah, the stats were really big with me. In fact, I'll just mention real quick, one of the things that really got me thinking about it too was when I went to the National Weight Loss Registry, and their definition of success was 10% weight loss, keeping it off at least a year. And I was thinking, well, I'm 300 pounds. If I lost 10%, I would still be at 270, and I'd probably get it back after that year. So, just things like that when I was reading about it.
I love how you dove into all the statistics in the papers. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's out there. That's the great thing, right? Especially with AI. I'm hoping with AI in the next 10 years, that'll do wonders for the medical field. Yep. What do you think about weight loss medications like the Wegovy and the semaglutide that are coming out lately?
So I think they definitely have a role. We use them for some patients who have struggled even post-surgery. They've had some weight regain, or they've had some struggles for different reasons. It can be a way to help get people back on track. If somebody has high blood pressure and one medication isn't enough, you add a second medication. So it's another tool that can help.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Weight loss surgery and medications are kind of the two most, I would say, solutions, like practical solutions out there right now for actually losing the weight sustainably. So, yeah. Okay, well, let's see if there's anything else I would like to say. I'll just mention one of my favorite authors right now is a scientist named Charles Yeo, Y-E-O. He's been studying genetics and obesity at the University of Cambridge for over 20 years, but he writes books for the public that are really fun to read. So if you're ever interested in that, kind of goes along with a lot of things you were saying about fighting our biology. Let's see. Would I do it over again? 100%. What's my number one staying healthy tip? I think we went over that, right? Finding food and exercise we enjoy. And I guess that's about it. I'm sorry. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. That's great. That's great. I think it's been a wonderful discussion. Again, I love what your approach was. I love how you jumped into the science and the data, and then just sharing the techniques that you've used to be successful. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think overall the surgery has just helped me to come to more of an acceptance of myself, because I will say when I first had this surgery, like my goal was to get down to 140 and to stay there forever. But you know, even with the surgery, you have to be a little realistic. And, but just me at 185, I'll take it. I love it. I love myself. It's great. I can exercise. I can go shopping at regular stores. I can function. I can be work full time. I can be functional for my family. So I just want to thank you. Like, thank you so much. Like, seriously, for your education and your training and all that you've done, and for like believing people that are obese and being empathetic and understanding. Like, I'm getting a little emotional right now, Dr. Rasmussen. Like, it's really nice to have doctors that, you know, are so caring and thoughtful. And anyway, thank you for all that you've done.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on the success you've had and what you've done over these years. Congratulations. It's been great chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. It's good chatting with you.
Thanks again to Traci Wright for sharing her story with us. I think she hit on a lot of key topics and a lot of things that I think different people can identify with. And I hope you enjoyed her story. We'll see you next time. Please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. It will help us reach more people with these amazing stories. I also have a YouTube channel where you can see this video as well as several other videos about surgical weight loss, general surgery, and robotic surgery. Join us next time for another amazing story.